I never thought I would share this story. My life took a turn I didn't see coming. My name is Emma, and I am 40 years old. I've been a single mom for a long time, raising my son alone. His name is Liam, and he's now 22. We've always been close, just the two of us, helping each other through life's ups and downs. One night, something unexpected happened. Liam looked really tired and said he didn't feel well. He'd been working hard and studying a lot, and he looked worn out. I told him he could lie down on my bed for a while if he wanted to rest. It was a chilly night, and our house takes a while to warm up, so I put a heavy blanket over him. At first, it seemed normal, just a mother helping her son. But then, as I lay next to him, I felt him move closer. He must have been trying to get warm, and I didn't think too much of it. But then, he wrapped his arms around me gently, pulling me close like he used to when he was younger. I was a bit surprised, but I let it be. He probably just needed comfort. I could feel his warmth next to me, his steady breathing. As we lay there, I felt Liam's breathing slow down like he was falling asleep. The room was so quiet that I could hear my own heartbeat. It felt strange but also calming. I didn't move, not wanting to disturb him, and I told myself it was just a mother giving comfort to her son. But after a while, he moved again, shifting even closer to me under the blanket. I felt his arm wrap around me a bit tighter, and I froze for a moment, unsure of what to think. Part of me wanted to say something, to pull away, but another part of me stayed still. There was a tension in the air that I couldn't ignore, and I didn't know why I felt this way. Then something happened that surprised me. I felt something hard under the blanket. It was unexpected, and my heart started to race. I tried to stay calm, to remind myself that he was just my son. Maybe he didn't even realize it himself. I lay there, trying to ignore the feelings that were starting to build up inside me. I told myself it was just a moment, just a strange, awkward moment that would pass. But as the minutes went by, I realized that things were different, and I didn't know how to handle it. Liam stayed close to me, his breathing steady, but I could feel the warmth between us growing. I wanted to move, to say something lighthearted to break the tension, but the words wouldn't come. I felt trapped in that moment, unsure of what I was even feeling. Then, Liam shifted slightly, lifting his head to look at me. His eyes held a softness I hadn't seen before, a look that made me feel both safe and nervous at the same time. He didn't say anything, but his gaze seemed to ask me if everything was okay. I tried to smile, hoping it would ease the strange feeling, but it only made the silence feel deeper. Liam's hand stayed on my arm, warm and steady. I could feel his fingertips gently moving, almost absent-mindedly. It was such a small thing, but every touch seemed to spark something inside me that I couldn't ignore. I kept my breathing steady, trying not to let him see that my heart was racing. I didn't know what to do or say, so I just lay there, feeling completely wrapped up in the strange connection between us. I told myself this was just a mother comforting her son, nothing more. But in that quiet, with just the two of us under the blanket, my mind kept spinning with thoughts that felt wrong, yet I couldn't push them away. He was my son, but lying there with him so close, I could feel something deeper, a closeness I didn't understand. I felt a mixture of confusion and warmth, an unexpected feeling that held me still. Liam didn't seem to notice my struggle. He just stayed beside me, his hand moving softly, comforting, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. His breathing was calm, his eyes closed again, and I wondered if he was falling asleep. But then his hand shifted, moving slowly up my arm. I felt a chill run through me, and he opened his eyes, looking right into mine. There was a question in his gaze, as if he was asking if this was okay, if I felt the same strange pull that he did. I whispered his name, barely able to get the word out. I wanted to stop this, to pull away and create some distance, but somehow, I couldn't move. The tension between us was too strong, like a quiet storm building in the silence. Neither of us spoke, but the air was filled with unspoken words, things we both felt but couldn't bring ourselves to say. Then, almost as if it was the most natural thing, he leaned in closer. My heart pounded, my mind racing, but I couldn't bring myself to pull back. I felt torn, caught between my role as his mother and the strange feelings that had surfaced. As he leaned closer, I felt my breath catch, and every thought I had faded away, leaving only that moment between us. Liam's hand rested gently on my shoulder now, his fingers lingering as if he, too, was hesitating. The world around us felt distant, and all I could focus on was the warmth of his presence, the steady beat of his heart that I could almost hear. For a moment, I closed my eyes, trying to calm myself. I told myself to pull back, to break the closeness that felt so confusing and overwhelming. But then, I felt his hand gently move up, brushing a strand of hair away from my face. It was such a simple, caring gesture, and yet it made my heart ache in ways I couldn't understand. I opened my eyes, and there he was, looking at me with such softness, such trust. His face was so close, and I could see every small detail, the tiny freckles, the gentle curve of his mouth, the way his eyes searched mine. There was a vulnerability in his gaze that matched my own, and I could see that he was just as lost in this moment as I was. We stayed like that, suspended in the quiet, as if time itself had stopped. My mind was a whirlwind of questions, of doubt, of things I couldn't make sense of, but my body wouldn't move. I felt drawn to him, this person I had raised, and yet he felt like someone entirely new to me in that moment. Just as I thought we'd stay frozen in that silence forever, Liam pulled back slightly, breaking the trance. He looked away, almost embarrassed, and let out a shaky laugh, rubbing the back of his neck. It brought me back to reality for a second, making me realize just how close we'd been. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the rush of emotions inside me, hoping he hadn't noticed. "Sorry, Mom," he said softly, his voice filled with uncertainty. "I didn't mean to make things weird." He avoided my gaze, and I could see a hint of color on his cheeks, like he was struggling with the same confusion I was. I wanted to comfort him, to tell him that everything was okay, but the words got stuck in my throat. I didn't know what to say, and for the first time in a long while, I felt awkward around my own son. I reached out, putting my hand on his shoulder, and gave him a small smile, hoping it would ease the tension. "It's all right, Liam," I said, my voice soft and steady. It's just been us for so long. We're both probably just feeling a little lost." He nodded, and I could see a flash of relief in his eyes. Then, just as the tension started to fade, the doorbell rang. The sudden noise jolted us both back to the present, breaking whatever spell had been between us. I quickly got up, feeling my heart still racing, and headed to the door, grateful for the interruption. When I opened it, I found our neighbor, Mark, standing there. Mark had always been friendly, someone I could count on when I needed help. He smiled, but his eyes lingered on me a bit longer than usual, and I realized I still had that strange energy from the moment with Liam. I tried to compose myself, hoping he didn't notice anything unusual. "Hey, Emma," he said, his voice warm. "I thought I'd come by and see if you needed anything. I know it's been a bit colder lately, and I can help with any heating issues if you've got them." I felt a strange wave of relief wash over me, and for a moment, I let myself relax. "Oh, thank you, Mark," I replied, smiling. "Actually, the house does get a bit chilly. I'd really appreciate it." Mark stepped inside, and I could feel Liam watching us from the hallway, his face unreadable. I glanced back at him, and for a second, I saw something in his eyes. A flicker of something like jealousy, though he tried to hide it quickly. It surprised me, leaving me wondering if he was feeling more than he wanted to admit. As Mark moved around, checking the heater, he asked me questions about how things were at home. We made small talk, but I kept glancing at Liam, who stayed quiet, watching us both with a strange intensity. I could sense his discomfort, and it added a new layer of tension to the room. I felt torn, caught between wanting to ease things with Mark and being aware of Liam's presence, his gaze never leaving us. After a few minutes, Mark turned to me with a warm smile. "All right, everything looks good here, Emma. Just call if you need any more help." I thanked him, and as he left, I felt the tension between me and Liam grow even thicker. I closed the door, turning to see him standing there, his arms crossed, his expression serious. "Are you okay, Liam?" I asked, trying to understand what was going through his mind. He shrugged, looking away, his voice quiet. "Yeah, I'm fine." Just didn't expect Mark to stop by, that's all. I wanted to reach out to him, to understand what was happening between us. But before I could say anything more, he walked past me, heading to his room without another word. The door closed softly behind him, and I stood there, feeling a strange mixture of relief, confusion, and a lingering sense of something unfinished. I stood there, staring at Liam's closed door, feeling an ache I couldn't fully understand. My mind was swirling with everything that had just happened. The closeness we'd shared, the way his gaze had lingered when Mark was there, and the strange, unspoken tension that felt like it was just waiting to bubble up again. I went to my room and sat on the edge of the bed, replaying everything. I knew I couldn't ignore it forever, but I also wasn't sure how to face it. Just then, I heard a soft knock at my door. My heart jumped a little, wondering if Liam had come back. "Come in," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Liam opened the door and stepped inside, his face unreadable. He came over and sat next to me, looking down at his hands. We sat there in silence for a moment, the air heavy with everything unsaid. "Mom," he finally began, his voice almost a whisper. I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry if I made things strange earlier. He trailed off, seeming to struggle with his words. I placed my hand on his, giving it a gentle squeeze. "Liam, it's okay. Maybe we're both feeling a little lost right now. It's been just us for so long, and sometimes things can get confusing." He nodded, his gaze still on his hands, and then he looked up at me, his eyes filled with a mix of emotions I couldn't quite read. "But it felt different," he said softly, almost as if he was afraid to admit it. I didn't know how to respond. I felt my own heart ache with that same confusion, and for a moment, I thought about reaching out to hug him, to tell him everything would be fine. But I wasn't sure if it was what he needed, or if it would make things even more complicated. So instead, I just sat there, letting the silence speak for both of us. Finally, I took a deep breath and looked into his eyes. "Liam, maybe we just need to take a step back and think about everything," I said gently. "It's okay to feel close, but it's also okay to need space to figure things out." He nodded slowly, but then, in a surprising move, he leaned his head on my shoulder, just like he used to when he was younger. It felt comforting, familiar, yet with that strange edge to it that I couldn't ignore. I felt my heart soften, and I put my arm around him, pulling him close in a way that felt safe, even though I knew the questions between us weren't fully answered. For the first time in a while, I felt that maybe we didn't have to have all the answers right now. We could take it one step at a time, figuring things out together, even if it was complicated. And as we sat there, just holding on to each other, I felt a sense of calm, a quiet hope that no matter what, we would find our way through this, together. We stayed like that, sitting quietly together, as if all the confusion between us could disappear just by being close. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. The warmth between us was comforting, yet unsettling, like a feeling just beneath the surface that neither of us could ignore. After a while, Liam lifted his head and looked at me, his face serious. "Mom, I don't know what to do with these feelings. I don't want to make things harder for us, but I can't ignore it either." His words hung heavy in the air, like a question he didn't dare ask out loud. I swallowed, my mind racing as I searched for the right thing to say. But as I opened my mouth, there was another knock on the door. We both jumped, startled, and looked at each other, caught off guard. The knock was firm, almost urgent, as if whoever was on the other side knew something was going on. Feeling a sudden rush of nervousness, I got up and walked to the door. When I opened it, Mark stood there again, looking concerned. "Emma, sorry to bother you. I just thought, I wanted to check if everything was all right. You seemed a bit off earlier." I glanced back at Liam, who was watching us closely, his face unreadable. I tried to keep my voice steady as I replied, "Thanks, Mark, but we're fine. Just having a quiet evening." Mark looked at me, then passed me at Liam, his gaze thoughtful. "All right, but remember, I'm just next door if you need anything." After he left, I closed the door and turned back to Liam, who was still watching me with that same intensity. He stood up, walking slowly toward me, and I felt my heart race all over again, the air between us thick with everything unsaid. But just as he reached me, he stopped, his expression shifting as if he were fighting with himself. Maybe we shouldn't push this, Mom, he said quietly, his voice shaking. Maybe we need time. I nodded, my heart aching with the same conflicted feelings. You're right, Leon. We both need to think about everything. Let's not rush this. He nodded too, and we stood there, close yet cautious, as if we were on the edge of something we couldn't control. It was an ending, but also a beginning, something we couldn't quite define. And as he walked away to his room, I wondered what the future held for us. If you'd like to hear the rest of our story, let us know in the comments below, and we'll share what happens next in part 2.